Hey everybody, this is Kathy.
And Brian.
And welcome to another episode of the Main Street Moments podcast. And we wanted to start off talking about this video that has gone viral on TikTok with 8 million views and counting.
Wow.
And what happened is a family wanted to avoid the high ticket prices at Magic Kingdom, which is something none of us like. And apparently they were sneaking in a child who clearly was 4 or 5 years old into the park via a stroller to try to pass the kid off as under 3. And this has really divided Disney fans, apparently, and people are talking about this on Reddit. Maybe we can get a conversation going here. I don't have the video to put up on YouTube. I mean, I can, but I'm not going to do that because it's not my video, but you can Google it. I did have the article in the Facebook group, Main Street Moments, and you can see the video that way. But what happened is a family, like I said, put a little girl who was dressed in a princess costume, very cute little girl, brought her through the gate, and they have her in this stroller, which she's clearly a little too big for. She's in her princess dress, and the person that filmed this filmed them going through the gate, not paying, and then followed them into the park. I guess everybody goes in the same direction, obviously, and kept filming them, and then filmed the little girl exiting the stroller, and she was clearly over 3 years old. I'd say 4 or 5. So a lot of people are upset about this. I think it's more disturbing that somebody filmed this and put it online.
Well,
and it's now had 8 million views on TikTok. That's crazy to me.
I've seen the video. Okay, a couple things about it. I don't know. The girl could be as old as 6 or 7. That what they did, the parents, well, I'm assuming they're the parents with this child, is went through a lot of deception, and not just putting an older child in a stroller, but having the child suck their thumb was probably part of the ruse to avoid the high ticket prices. Let me tell you, the ticket prices of Disney are out of control, and I really don't blame these parents for doing that. Well, I don't blame them at all.
I think a lot of us have either personally experienced this or we've never done this. But I will say this. I was telling Brian this the other night. When I was a kid in the 70s, when I turned like 11 or 12, I'd say 12. Ticket prices at the movie theater when you hit 12 would go up to the adult price. So my mom didn't have a lot of money. And when we went to see a movie when I was 12 years old, she would make me scooch down at the ticket booth to get the cheaper ticket price at the movies. This was a standard practice with my mother until I was about 13 years old. And then I had like a growth spurt. She couldn't do it anymore. She made my brother do it too.
But that's a couple
but she didn't have any money.
That's a couple dollars.
Yeah, so this is...
Disney is how much?
Well, we looked at a ticket price for a 3 to 9-year-old on October 8th. We chose like a Saturday. We went to the website, $149.
Oh my goodness.
Just for a ticket for a 3 to 9-year-old to get in.
That's $150.
Yeah, I mean, with taxes like $150.
Get out of town. No, really?
It's crazy. I know. So I can't blame these people, but at the same time, I can understand why people would be pissed about this because they're paying, and you could make the argument, what kind of a lesson are you teaching your kid? I mean, I don't know if the kid will remember this. They might not even know what's really going on.
Okay, well,
but there is some, like you said, major deception.
There's a few things to talk about here, okay? And there's one possibility that no one has considered, okay, which I'll get to in a little bit. But there's a couple things to talk about here. One, the TikToker who caught them doing this, who filmed them when they got into the park, is a form of hardcore bullying by the TikTokers. We've talked about on previous shows about live streams, and now we've been adding TikTokers to this. People that are making TikTok videos, YouTube videos, they're out of unique things to film in the parks that people have not seen 10 million times. So people are doing crazy things, like we were talking on the last episode about how someone on the exit of Space Mountain at Walt Disney World here in Florida climbed up on one of the displays and sat at a table at the exit queue so they could get some exciting TikTok video. People are so desperate to find new, unique, controversial, viral content that hundreds of thousands and millions of people will see. They're doing incredibly crazy things. And if they followed them in because they saw them in the line to catch them doing this.
They did, clearly.
that to me is a severe violation. I don't think people should be filming people inside the parks
and then uploading
and then doing something like this.
I totally agree with you.
Which could cause these people a lot of problems. It could cause embarrassment. And I'll tell you what, even though the child looks older, does not necessarily mean they are. We don't know 100%. Kids at that age, they don't have ID or anything. But no, I think it's wrong. And I do not blame these parents. It's $150 to get a child into the park.
More power to them.
The story behind Walt Disney World, both Magic Kingdoms.
I mean, that's a ridiculous price.
Well, we've all heard the story of Disneyland that Walt went to on the weekend, took his daughters somewhere, and realized there wasn't really a place to take kids on the weekends, and created Disneyland. Now, obviously, Disneyland and Walt Disney World are for-profit places, and that's fine. But I think that Mr. Walt Disney himself would not approve of ticket prices being so high that parents are forced to really go to criminal activity to bring their little girl into the park. I think that's a big statement on how out of control the prices are at Walt Disney World.
I agree with you, and I think Walt probably would have said go for it. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, because the prices are ridiculous.
Well,
everything's over the top, and I think most like I said, we never did that, but my mom used to do it.
Not at Disney World though. Movie theater's just still, like $5, Kathy.
I know, but the point of that is the whole thing with people arguing that you're teaching your children to be deceptive. So that with that, price doesn't matter because the lesson is you can lie to get your way. And I understand that's not the greatest lesson in the world, but when my mom did it with me, it didn't change me. It didn't make me a liar or a bad person or scar me for life. I thought it was kind of funny. And my mom really just didn't have a lot. She was a single mother. She just didn't have the money, and every little bit helped.
Listen, so a lot of parents do things similar. It's free to get into Walt Disney World if you're how old?
Under 3.
Okay. So
3 or less.
There are parents every day, probably every hour of every day, claiming 3-year-olds are 2.5. This is happening all the time.
Absolutely.
This was a little more extreme, perhaps. Okay, but I think people have been doing it since the parks have been open. They'll continue to do it, and all power to them. Disney, it's highway robbery. They are charging out of control prices for everything in the park, and I know a lot of people will say, well, you're condoning stealing because you're stealing a park ticket and such, right? You're kind of like a stowaway, but not on a ship, but at a at a theme park. I don't care. I say go for it. These parents, there have been some other scams in the past that have been rooted out, right? Like the big scam of people getting wheelchairs and motorized scooters to avoid the lines.
Right.
And Disney did a remedy to that where you have to get a special disability pass, which is not that difficult to get, but there's still some hoops you got to draw. And that stops something. And it used to be if you were in a wheelchair or a disability scooter that you could go to any ride and you would beat the queue and they would take you in the exit because Kathy is disabled and we've had to do that out of necessity. And now it's more of a to-do and you just can't go to a ride. You have to. It's almost like it works like a fast pass where you come back at a time. You can't get right on a ride. They say come back in an hour, come back in 2 hours, or whatever, and then skip the line. It kind of works that way, kind of like a Disney Genie thing for disability. But they rooted that out. And remember, there were companies that were actually renting scooters and wheelchairs.
There were a lot of
just
companies,
on the premise that you can skip the lines at Disney.
There were a lot of companies that popped up when this kind of reached a climax where people were doing this, because I would read about it online. Oh, just, rent a thing. And there was some, I don't know if it was Tim Tracker or some big vlogger that did that a long time ago. Oh, just
Tim Tracker
get a wheelchair.
About it,
which is horrible to say. And, just get a wheelchair or scooter and you can get through everything.
Yeah.
So because it became a thing and there were so many companies, like you said, that were popping up in the Orlando area that were renting scooters, they cracked down on it. But I want to back to this with this girl. Now, what's happening is it disturbs me. Like you said, I'm sure there's plenty of parents that had 4-year-old kids that just turned 4 that took them in the park for free because they don't ask for the kid's birth certificate. We did it with Emily when she was turning 3, and a month before her birthday, it was February. She's born in March. I'd said to you, you know what? Let's take Emily to Disney now because when she turns 3, we might have to still pay for. I wasn't sure if it lasts as long as they're 3, but at the time I was thinking it was under 3. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's take her now, months before her 3rd birthday, because she'll get in free, her food's free, everything's free. So we did. We took her in February, and we were worried she was too young, but she had a great time. It was really a great weekend we had with her, and that was it. Because I just personally would not sneak my kid in and do that. That's just not something I would do. Well, but I'm not going to judge these people. The person I'm more upset with is the person that filmed this. I personally do not like somebody filming someone, especially without their knowledge, and then putting it on social media. And it's now gone viral. It's had over 8 million views. We're talking about it. There's articles about it. These poor people, you can see clearly that it's 2 women, their faces or their side of their faces. People that know them are going to know who they are, and the kid. And I think that this could be a real problem for Disney. I don't know how this family will handle it, where they just forget about it and not worry about it. They
may not know about it yet.
I don't like people doing that. To me, it's an invasion of privacy.
This went viral. Let's say this could have been filmed 6 months ago or a year ago, and now it's up there and going viral today. And now they may not know about it, the parents involved, the family involved, but they may find out about it real soon.
I think they will. Somebody will tell them.
Here's the thing. There's a growing movement. We've talked about this on the program. There's a growing movement of people that do not like the fact that they are recorded inside the park by vloggers, live streamers, and now TikTokers.
This is a perfect example.
And I don't think this is appropriate at all. People go to Disney World to escape. You go to Walt Disney's World. There's a reason why the Magic Kingdom is a mile from the parking lot, okay? It's so that you're completely immersed in Walt Disney's world. It's kind of like Westworld. You're supposed to be totally away from the worries of
it's not like that anymore.
Of life and society. And now you have this TikToker here who's trying to get some clicks, some views, trying to go viral, make a couple bucks, looking for ways to humiliate and maybe even damage someone who's doing something like this.
Well, they don't care. It's like when we talked about what happened with Tanya when she had a big thing over Robin getting sick in the park.
That crazy Disney lady.
And that was a big nightmare and headache for her. Luckily, it worked out okay, but somebody just made a comment on a thread, and she ended up on Inside Edition and in the Daily Mail. It was nuts how things take off. So I personally am not into this cancel culture, upload people. Maybe I'm old school. I think people deserve a right to privacy, but a lot of younger people and a lot of people have the attitude, well, you're in a public place, and if you're here, then this is what could happen. And I just think that's a mean way to think. They're not celebrities. It's not like you're filming the Kardashians when they went to Disney World, where you have a celebrity who has an expectation of not having privacy. This is a private person. It's their business, what they do. And that really just bothers me. Tell us what you guys think in the comments.
Here's a question that I'll ask people that are watching to let us know in the comments, okay? Who is the person that has made the largest moral violation here?
That's a good question.
The person who snuck their child in to avoid the $149 ticket price, or the TikToker who put them all over the internet to go viral with, as of right now, 8 million views. By the time you guys are hearing about this, it might be 12 or 20 million on TikTok. I think the TikToker is the one that's out of control. And I got to tell you, I'm at the point now, I didn't think I'd get to this point, but I'm at the point now where there needs to be some, I believe, serious crackdown on things like this at the park. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's free publicity and Disney doesn't want to lose their free publicity. I don't think they would mind too much, Disney. I think that the park is pretty busy, and what they're getting is negative publicity because people that make online content for Disney now, the new thing from a lot of people is to be critical. Like Prince Charming Dev, he makes a lot of videos very critical of everything Disney, and that's fine. That's an honest review from his viewpoint. But the vloggers and the TikTokers, they're talking about ways to game the system. They're exposing guests like this. And they're being critical in a way that's very negative. So I think it's time to really think about, are people's experience at Walt Disney World being destroyed by people like this TikToker.
Well, it's like what we talked about in the last episode, the lack of control that Disney has over content that is uploaded. And I don't think Disney, this has got 8 million views so far. I don't think Disney appreciates this kind of publicity at all because it can give other parents the idea, oh, I'll do the same thing. I can put my kid in a stroller and if they fit, boom. Now, because that happened and because so many people saw this, Disney might change a policy now. They might, I mean, this is crazy. They might make it that you have to be under 2 to be free, or maybe wipe that out completely.
Children,
there's repercussions sometimes.
Bob Chapek cares about money more than anything.
That's right.
So Bob Chapek cares about this,
He
and you're right.
saw it.
He may say all children of all ages, unless they are a newborn baby,
have to be charged something.
And I'll tell you, look at these stunts. If you remember, there was a video that went viral on TikTok quite a while ago where a girl was wearing an inappropriate shirt. So they said she couldn't wear it, gave her a free shirt. Then a bunch of TikTok girls
became a trend. Started
going to Disney dressed inappropriately, testing the system to see if they could get a free shirt from Disney by dressing inappropriately. That's not good publicity for Disney.
Well, now Disney no longer gives free shirts.
Yeah, they just tell you can't come in. You can't come in.
They make you buy it now.
Or leave.
Yeah. So that ruined that little freebie and perk. Okay, so this article, and like Brian said, tell us who is made the bigger moral faux pas, the person who filmed and uploaded or the family who snuck the kid in. I say the TikToker for sure.
Yeah, by far. I'll tell you one thing that happened to me. I was thinking about this. About 2 years ago, this was right after the parks had reopened. Okay, so I don't remember how long they've been reopened, but this was right after the parks had reopened. My daughter and I, our daughter, we went to the park and we were on the monorail and we met a family that was a mother, a grandmother with 2 children. Mm-hmm. And my daughter and I, we were talking about what things we were going to do at Disney. And then they struck up a conversation with us, the mother and the grandmother. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think about it too heavily until later. And then I started realizing, well, maybe something else was in play. I'll tell you what happened. They started saying, oh, you guys know a lot about the park. You got your whole day planned. So they just something to spark a conversation. And we started talking. And they had these 2 little kids with them. And then they said, well, they're not going to the park today. The tickets are too expensive. They're visiting Orlando from out of town, and they're just riding the monorail around so the kids can see the park without going.
That's sad.
And it was sad. And I'll tell you, if it was not a family of 4, I probably, if it was like the mother with a child, I might have bought them the tickets. It was really sad, but it was 4 people. You know how much that can be, right?
It would have been like $400
easily.
$400.
And it was just too much. If it was just a mother with 1 child, I very well may. I can't say for sure, but I think I might have bought the ticket. It was a very sad story. I started to think I was being conned.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it at the time until after I was in the park, and I was thinking about it, and I was feeling bad as we were having a good time. And then I started to think, I said, you know what? I think they were out there conning me.
Maybe riding around on the monorail for hours trying to get
see if someone will buy them free tickets at the Walt Disney World. And
I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't know for sure, but I'm leaning in favor of it was a con game.
Yeah, that would not surprise me. Isn't that awful? You want to help people, but at the same time, you don't want to be bamboozled either.
A lot of people that go to Disney with the new prices are very wealthy, and buying 4 tickets for people, 2 kids and 2 adults, would not be any problem. For me, it would be a lot. That's a lot of money. I could afford that. But a lot of people could say, well, no problem, I'll do it for you. So, yeah, you could. They very well could have been. What do you think, Kathy?
I think that's a good possibility. Mm-hmm. For sure. It's awful to think that, but there are people like that.
Well, with the high prices are driving people to do things at Disney to try to avoid the high prices. I mean, that's what's going on.
Well, yeah, and then the question is, like we talked about, is this a lesson that you want to teach your kids? Or I don't think it's – I mean, if you did it habitually, I think it would be a problem. If you continually used your children in that way to get free stuff, then I would think, yeah, that might be something not good to teach. But if it's like a once in a while and – you don't really explain it to them that much.
Well, you know what?
I don't know if it's that damaging. I mean,
this discussion,
it's just a one-time thing.
This discussion of this story, I saw it talked about on television yesterday morning, and some people on one of the news networks were talking about it. And they said, well, if you can't afford to go to Disney, don't go. Well, it's easy for them to say. They're rich and they're on national television.
True.
There are people who cannot afford. This may be a shock to some of the people that talk about these things, on other programs and on television. But there are people that truly cannot afford to go to Walt Disney World. And there was a whole movie made about this, The Florida Project, about those kids
who lived
with William Dafoe that live in a motel where they can see the fireworks at Walt Disney World at night.
But they can't afford to go.
And I'll tell you something. I've not watched that movie because it seems too sad for me to watch, The Florida Project. So there are people who work at the parks who on that type of salary would not be able to afford to take their kids. There's been a lot of I know they get comped if they work at the parks. I understand that, but they don't make enough money to take their kids to the park if they had to. If they work at Disney, they can't go to Universal. There's been a lot of reporting in the local news in the Orlando area. You can find these stories on YouTube of people living in motels in Kissimmee where people used to stay that have been bypassed because of the new roads and the hotels at Disney World. There's a lot of poverty around Walt Disney World, poverty that I think people would be shocked to learn.
I think so.
Is going on at that level of poverty in such a place as the Walt Disney World area in Orlando. So no, I have no beef with this family sneaking this girl in. You know what? Even if they can afford it, I wouldn't assume they're poor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they didn't look like they were struggling.
I still don't blame them.
They were dressed really nice and had a nice stroller, so
I still don't blame them.
They could just be trying to screw it to Disney, and I think you're right. I don't blame them at all. The ticket prices are out of control. $150 for an elementary school child. That girl was like 4 or 5. That's outrageous.
I'll tell you something here, okay? I have seen more than one vlogger, and this is a tip that I give to people sometimes, okay? I'm not a big eater, and I've seen multiple vloggers talk about this, okay, at the parks. To order a kid's meal, you don't have to be a kid.
Yeah, we always order kids' meals.
And I order some. It depends on how hungry I am, but if I eat at the park, it is not unusual for me to order a kid's meal for myself. It's a lot cheaper. It's less food, okay? So you're still paying. You're paying for less food. You're getting less food, but I want less food. I don't need this huge portion. So I will order a kid's meal myself sometimes. Am I gaming the system?
No, I mean,
do you have to be a certain age to order a kid's? And many vloggers have done this and talked about this.
I think it's a great tip.
This is a big tip at Disney to order the kids' meal.
We stayed at the Coronado once, which is a great hotel, by the way, and beautiful. And we went to eat there, and we were ordering burgers. And the burgers for adults were like $16 for a burger, fries, and a drink. And then I said to you, let's order the kids' meal. And it was like, they were like $8, $9. So we saved $5-6 each.
I do that.
And we got a cookie too.
Yeah.
And the burger was normal size, had a little less fries, and you get like a small little cup. But at the resorts, they have those soda fill-up stations. You could just go get a soda and fill it up. So we saved like $11, $12. That was one meal. We did that. So if you're on vacation there and you do that for every meal, you can also split meals. So I know what you're saying. People cut corners. This is not cutting a corner. This is just blatantly
it's theft.
Lying.
It's theft.
And yeah, exactly. It is a form of theft.
They stole a park ticket.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make that argument.
You could probably be arrested for what they did.
You think so?
Yeah, if they wanted to press it.
Or get banned, which could happen.
But you know what? I still, all power to them. I would not recommend doing that because you can get into a lot of trouble, and it's a high-ticket item that you're doing here, okay?
Yeah, we're not recommending you do it, obviously.
But let me tell you, if these adults were arrested and there was like a trial and I was on the jury, it'd be not guilty.
Yeah.
I would not.
Well, I don't think they'll get arrested, but I
know that you could. It's like shoplifting.
You could. It is like shoplifting. But I don't know if you work at Disney, we do have a lot of cast members that listen and leave comments. Leave a comment about this if you've seen people get caught doing this and what is the protocol at Disney World if they catch a family doing this. Because like we said, this is not the first family to do this. And, how do they handle this at the Disney parks? Do they just suspend them? Do they ban them completely? I'm very, very curious. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about this article real quick that was in the news last week. And it said here, they did a focus group. They interviewed, it says 1,927 Disney World enthusiasts from the gambling website Time to Play surveyed these people. 68.3% reported that the price hikes make them feel like the theme park has lost its magic.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot. 92.6% said they believe the high costs, oops, I just lost my place, for the park. Hold on a second. I keep getting these stupid pop-ups. 92.6% reported that they believe the high cost for the park has made a vacation for the average family out of reach.
Yeah.
A ticket for Disney World Magic Kingdom in 1971 was $3.50. Of course, then you had to buy the tickets to get on the rides. When adjusting for inflation, that would mean tickets would be about $25 today.
Yeah, but
wow.
But like you said, Kathy,
right?
You had to pay for the ticket. Had to buy the tickets to ride the individual rides, which would increase it, but it still wouldn't be $150.
Right. So now the prices range from $109 to $159, which I think is ridiculous. Nearly 50% of respondents reported postponing a trip due to the price hikes. All in, Disney World veterans can expect to pay 35.7% more for their next trip compared to their last one. That is ridiculous. A chart posted to social media last year by research shows that prices for Disney World have risen by at least 3,871% since 1971, with prices rising at a more drastic rate in the early 1980s compared to its first decade. Oh my gosh. It says one dad of two estimated he would be on the hook for $4,000 to $5,000, even with one of his kids qualifying for free admission. I understand inflation and all those things. I understand cost increases. I always had the impression that Disney was a family vacation destination, and that impression is why I was surprised to see how expensive it was and how out of reach it is for most American families. So this is going in with the theme of stealing the ticket. Yeah, I mean, and we're going to talk about this Victorian Albert's price. They had a huge price hike, which people are very upset about, apparently. I've never eaten there. I would never spend $500 for dinner. That's nuts to me. But people do go there, to save up and have for a special occasion, I guess. But, you know, that goes into the theme of everything being overpriced. So it says here, and this is another article on today.com, some fans of the most magical place on earth apparently aren't very happy. So here's another. This is an ongoing theme about these prices. These are all articles from the last week. Disney World fans are criticizing the powers that be at the theme park for significantly raising the prices of its most expensive food establishment, Victoria and Albert's. Obviously, that's named after Queen Victoria, right? And her husband. Mm-hmm. The restaurant is located in the Grand Floridian, which is very fancy. It's Victorian themed. It says here they closed during COVID, obviously, and they renovated the place during COVID, which was nice. They have an in-house harpist, a non-alcoholic cocktail list, and other things. The standard menu begins at $2.95 per person, with optional wine pairings starting at $150. That's $150, or non-alcoholic pairings, which start at $110. This is up from $185 at the time of closure before the pandemic, and $250 with wine pairings, a difference of $195 for the cheapest option.
Well,
so it is it used to be, I'll tell you real quick, the most expensive option now costs $425. That's without the wine. And with the wine, $200, $625 a person, where it used to be $375.
Okay, now I know
that's a big
jump. A lot of people say, well, you don't have to eat there. Well, that's true.
No, you don't.
You
and we never have.
But okay, the last time we went to something that would be considered a little nicer of a restaurant at Walt Disney World was a while ago. You know, the food at Walt Disney World is awful. Okay?
I don't think it's that great.
It's awful.
Yeah,
I've never had a good meal at Walt Disney World. But we went at the Wilderness Lodge. What is that? Artist Point.
Yes.
Okay.
The Snow White. It was really
okay.
fun.
Now we went to Artist Point because somebody for Christmas had given us a gift card to Walt Disney World.
Right.
And so we said, let's go out to have dinner somewhere we wouldn't. So on our own. So we went to Artist Point, and I don't remember the meal. It was not memorable. It was not special. It was like eating at Sizzler. I mean, it really was. I know they had some special candy.
I like Sizzler. Sizzler's good.
Yeah, but Sizzler is the price point at Sizzler is appropriate for the food level.
Exactly.
Okay, I love Sizzler.
Yeah, I miss Sizzler.
But Sizzler doesn't cost as much. Doesn't cost a couple $100s to eat at. So I obviously have never eaten at this crazy price restaurant, and I never will. The only other time I ate at something really fancy at Walt Disney World, this tell you how long ago, with the restaurant at the Living Seas, and that was a new thing. And that meal I enjoyed because I had a table right with the aquarium.
That's a great restaurant.
And I wasn't paying for it. Okay.
I think the only restaurant I'd really,
I wouldn't have liked it so much if I was paying for it.
We just don't spend a lot on food for some reason when we go there. But the one restaurant I've always wanted to eat at is the Canadian. The La Cillier.
Yeah, I wanted to eat there.
We've always wanted to eat there, and I'll make a reservation, and then I'm like, it's going to be like $300. I don't know.
It's crazy.
To me, I know a lot of people are just into food and spending a lot of money. And that's fine. That's your thing. But it's just I'd rather go buy $300 worth of merch.
Well, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments if you have had a meal at Walt Disney World that you feel was worth the price of the meal, okay, and it was a memorable meal, and these restaurants really what they are. It's about the experience and everything else. But at these prices, the experience to me doesn't equal the price point at all. I've eaten at other restaurants at Disney World around the parks, and I cannot remember one meal I had where I said, that was so good, and I'll remember it forever.
I can remember one, and you'll remember when I mention it. We ate at the castle, and that was a good experience, and the food was very good. That was worth the money. We got to meet Cinderella,
I'll give you that one.
The prince.
That was a long time ago,
The view is incredible.
That was good.
That was a long time ago. I mean, that was
a long time ago.
Right after our daughter was born.
That was like 20 years ago.
Longer, I think. 22. Emily was like 6 months old, and we had to get away to get some rest.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
That was nice.
That was really cool.
So I've never eaten at Victoria and Albert's, but
and you never will. Not with
me. No.
No way.
$625 per person.
Kathy.
So 2 people, it's $1,300 with
think about
tip,
this.
and that's
Think
nuts.
about this. We could, as a family, fly to England and have a meal for that price.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. I mean, if you have a family of 4, but hey, there are people that can afford it, obviously. And I think the argument is, like you said, people will say, well, if you don't like it, don't go there. That's true. You have a choice. But the choices are getting less and less. You're not having as many choices as you used to have at Disney. And that's the point, is they're making those choices harder. When it was $400 a person, that's a lot. I mean, to me, I still wouldn't spend that because with tip, you're talking $900 for a meal. That to me is throwing money away. But $625,
no way.
Now that's with the wine. It's with, you might as well drink if you're there. I mean, you're going to need to drink to pay that bill. $625 a person, so you're talking $1,350. You got to leave a decent tip, so you're talking $1,450, $1,500. To me, is crazy. But like I said, there are people that can spend it, but they've raised the prices on everything. And I understand with inflation, but the problem is Disney has increased their prices so much more than the rate of inflation. I mean, they said they're 3,800% since it opened. The prices have been, to me, it's insulting to the people, and it clearly shows the target that Disney is going for.
Well, you know what?
They're not going for the average family.
It is only a matter of time before the annual pass system as we know it disappears forever.
You think so?
And I have an annual pass. Kathy doesn't have one. Our daughter doesn't have one because they don't go enough to justify it. I do. I go enough to justify it because I go to vlog. And I get the free parking, and I'm expecting them to take the free parking out of it. Disney is very much about the DVC, which DVC is a timeshare, and I am very strongly against timeshares. I believe timeshares are a scam. I don't know anyone that is personally who's had a timeshare that is happy about it. They all hate it.
But a lot of DVC people do like
it. A lot of times people say they like it. I've been around. I was on the Skyway. Going towards what's the DVC resort on the Skyway? The new
Riviera.
Hotel, the Riviera. Yes, I was going to the Riviera on the Skyway, and there was a couple.
You mean the gondola? The Skyway's the old term.
I still call it the Skyway. The gondola.
The Skyway was the old.
Excuse me. I was on the gondola.
The gondola.
Heading over there, and there was a couple. They've been DVC members for years, and they were talking about it, and they say, oh, the prices keep going up every year because there's maintenance fees and things like this. No, there are some people that like them, but very rarely in the timeshare business as a whole, people don't like timeshares. They're very expensive, but Disney is very much about, and I understand it's a big moneymaker for them, but I expect the annual pass system as we know it to disappear except for some very expensive special tiers.
That would be awful.
I'm telling you, they know how often you go. Like one year we renewed our annual passes, and I'd asked them how many times I'd gone to the park that year. It was the first year we had it. I went 20 times. Okay. So Disney.
And people that live there go like 3 times a week.
Yeah. So Disney, they look at those numbers and they know how many times people go. And they also know how much money they saved the person by not having to pay to park, et cetera, et cetera. And Disney, I believe, when you see the way they do everything, looks at annual pass holders as a losing proposition because you don't pay to park.
Well, they might change that. I could see more than changing the annual passes. I can see them taking away the free parking perk.
Oh, that would burn me.
I could see that. I know that's a big thing with you, and I don't know what it is with guys in parking.
Because it costs a lot of money to park.
I could see them taking away that perk. You used to be able, when Emily was little, and we used to go to Disney a lot more when Emily was little, and when Emily was little, we stayed at the value resorts. We stayed at the contemporary ones, and I'm pretty sure you could park for free at the resorts.
You could, yeah.
And then they changed that, and they started. And I remember we went up there, and I didn't know about the change, and we were there like 4 days, and they said they gave us the bill at the end, and they're like, well, there was like another $100. And I went to the girl. She said, oh, this is for parking, and I thought parking was just not anymore. Oh, so they used to have free parking at the resorts. They're going to change it at the parks.
You used to be able to park free if you stayed at one of the on-site hotels,
that's right.
And you would not have to pay for parking inside the parking lot either if you were staying in a resort hotel. They gave you a paper to put on your dashboard.
That's right. They don't do that anymore.
No. So
they're going to take that away from the APs. I'm telling you, that's going to happen. Tell us what you guys think about the stroller gate, or the pram gate, whatever you want to call it, and who do you think was in the wrong? Who do you think has the least amount of morals, the TikToker or the mom in the stroller? Thanks so much, and please check out our shop, mainstreetmerch.shop. We have a lot of cool t-shirts there and designs, and thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you soon.